Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me. It is August of 2026, so that means we have some mandatory contracts that have been put into place that have been edited, and I just want to make sure that everybody is on the same page on how these contracts are to be used. We received back in May a copy of these contracts of what everything has been, when everything was approved and all of that good stuff, but they were not put into place as mandatory or required use until July 1st of 2026. Again, we are in August as of this video, so I just want to run through some of this information for you on the condominium resale contract and only the condominium resale contract. So here are the differences, and here's what's going on with this. I'm not necessarily going to go through and say what goes in which paragraph, but more so explain what addenda should be attached, what does go in some of these paragraphs, why this contract is different from the 1 to 4 family resale contract or the Texas Realtors new construction or complete and incomplete condominium contract, all the differences and again, what was changed in this contract versus what was going on before May of 2026. Okay. So the first thing that I want to point out is you know that you're using the correct contract depending on what date you see in the top right corner. So if you're using a contract that's dated previous to May 4th of 2026, you are using the wrong contract. It is a TREC mandate. Anything that is promulgated, that you are using the most up-to-date version of every document that they produce for us. If you are using a previously dated document, you could get in a lot of trouble for that. Okay. All right, so we already know what happens in our parties. Who is the seller? Who is the buyer? The property in the condominium documents, this is the first place that you see things that are different. Usually in the 1 to 4 family, unimproved property, farm and ranch, and even the new home completed and incomplete construction contracts and all the other 5 promulgated contracts, what you typically see is lots, block, and then another blank for the legal description. Condominiums do not have a lot and block. Instead, we just need to know what the unit number is. We need to know what building it is. The extra, and then the project is located at whatever the legal description of the condominium is. We still want to know the address. What is it known of? What is the county? And you're simply just putting the 123 Easy Street in whatever city it is. You do not have to put Texas in anything. This is like known information and it's already written right here. So you do not need to restate, city of Dallas, Texas. You don't have to do that. Just put Dallas. Down here is another spot where things are going to get a little different because we need to know the parking information. You're going to list out everything as far as the parking goes right here in the contract. Okay, so with the 1 to 4 or any of the other promulgated documents, we don't need to understand how the parking is distributed. Usually there's a garage or there's a carport or something that we can physically see. But with condominiums, you either have 1 or 2 parking spots. It might be inside of a gate. You might get parking number assignments. You're discussing all of that information right here in the contract. So it's very important for you to get this information before you write your offer because you need it to finish your offer. There's no change here with the improvements, accessories, and what the exclusions are. So just making sure you understand the difference between an improvement and an accessory, and you've read through the MLS listing to be very clear if there were any exclusions and or if you're on the selling side or the listing side of the contract that you've also discussed with your sellers. Are you keeping anything? Is there anything you want me to exclude? On paragraph B, what we're talking about here are the declarations, the bylaws, and the rules of the association or the documents. Did your client receive them or not? That's what we're discussing here. If your client did not receive them, how long are you going to give them to receive the documents? That's happening here, or your client did receive the copy. These declarations and bylaws are completely different than here on the resale contract, the resale certificate. That's something totally different. The resale certificate is going to break down any HOA requirements, mandatory fees and association fees, all that information. The documents, the rules, bylaws, declarations are things like you cannot paint your house pink. The garbage cans cannot stand in front of the house. only two dogs are allowed per condominium or whatever, whatever the situation is, your declarations, your bylaws, and your rules are literally just that. What is allowed and what is not allowed, whereas the resale certificate is going to discuss the fees associated with that condominium. Okay. And has that been received or not? So that's what this is saying. Yes, it's been received. We have the resale certificate, or we do not. How long are you going to give the seller to provide that? Okay. The sales price, there's nothing new there. A plus B equals C. The money down goes in spot A. The loan goes in spot B. The sales price or what you're offering goes in spot C. If this is a cash deal, then you should only have a dollar amount in the down payment or the cash section, $0 for the loan, which should still equal that sales price. Your leases, nothing has changed really here. There, except the fact that there is no natural lease. Okay, so you can't have a lease on the land as far as like crops or anything like that because it's a condominium. So we just need to know if there are any fixture leases or residential leases there. Nothing has changed with the earnest and option money or the option period. Where will the money be collected? How many days is the option period? This is the where. Who is collecting the money? This is the where. This is the who. Sorry. How much earnest and option money are going to be delivered within that 3-day period? And then how many days are in your option period? None of that has changed. Who is paying the title policy and where is the title policy going to be furnished from? Which title company? None of this has changed. This is all the same as the other contracts as well. Where we start to see a difference is going to be here again in the title notices. Condominiums have their HOA or mandatory fees discussed in the resale certificate, which is discussed up here in paragraph 2. Okay, this is our resale certificate area, C, 2C. So we are already discussing the mandate of any forms and such over here. So if you notice down here in paragraph 6 under title notices and all the other contracts, there's a spot where we mark if there is or is not a mandatory association membership, HOA basically. We don't need to discuss that here because that's discussed and solved in paragraph 2. Okay. Paragraph 7, nothing has changed here as well. Is there a seller's disclosure or anything that we need to discuss there? Um, is the property being taken as is, lead-based paint? None of this has changed. All of this is the same. Paragraph 8, I'm sorry, paragraph 7H, we're talking about our residential contracts, basically your home warranties. Paragraph 8, is anyone related or is this listing agent or buyer agent part of the parties to the transaction or any other disclosures we need to make there? 9 is just discussing our closing date, which has not changed. 10 is not changed. Special provisions has not changed. 12 has changed for all of the contracts, all of them. Okay. 12A is still discussing your seller's concessions, which goes here in this box. And then down here, we are talking about buyers shall pay any and all association fees, deposits, and reserves. That's going to be here, okay? Because we're talking about our buyer expenses was starting with number 2. Okay, so these are the buyer expenses. These are going to be the seller's expenses up here. And the only expense that we're discussing in 12A at this point are the seller's concessions. Once we get down to 12B, we need to know who's going to pay the fees and deposits to the association. Again, with the other contracts, we are marking in paragraph 6 if we are or are not included in a mandatory membership association. And at that point, we would add the mandatory membership association for the addendum. We would add that. And on that addendum, we are discussing the same thing at the bottom in paragraph 4. Who is paying at the title company spot? Who is paying for all of this stuff? With condominiums, that is discussed in paragraph 2, the resale certificate itself. And then now down here in paragraph 12, that is a buyer expense. How much are they going to pay for that? Are they going to pay an amount not to exceed this dollar amount? The exact same way we would do it on the HOA addendum or the membership of mandatory association addendum that we add to all the other contracts. We're just putting it here in 12A3, okay? Now, the compensation, this is the big piece that has changed. How much is the seller contributing to the buyer's broker. And we even have a spot of how much is the buyer contributing to the seller's broker. Okay. Whichever amount that has been discussed in the contract, we are now putting this here. What this has alleviated is the need for the compensation between brokers, a document through Texas Realtors. And it's also alleviated the need to add any information to the bottom of our broker contact, where we used to have something here that discussed how much the listing broker was paying the buyer broker. Notice that this is now gone. Okay. We are discussing compensation 100% now in the contract. 100% now in the contract. Okay. So whatever your listing agreement states, it should only, as of 2026 again, be discussing what your listing fee is. It does not discuss what the cooperating broker's fee is because that is discussed in the buyer representation agreement. In the contract, we are discussing who's going to help contribute to all of the fees. Okay. 13 through 20 has not changed. All of this information is the same. Our notices has changed. We need to know the buyer's contact information separate from the agent's contact information, separate from the listing sides, the seller's contact information, separate from the listing agent's contact information. This is one of the first places that the title company is going to go to every time you've done a deal, or if you have not yet. What you will notice is once they receive the title company, once they receive the executed contract, they are going to ask or look for emails and contact information for that buyer and seller. They are coming to this paragraph, paragraph 21, to get that information. There are welcome packets that have to be sent out, and the title work needs to get started, and they need to know who they're working with. So yes, things will be sent to you guys as agents, because it's right here in the contract to also address us as well as agents, but to also to that point, we need to give the title company the contact information. So that is also here. 22 has not changed as far as what's been added or taken away, but what they did do is they reorganized all of this. So for all of my agents who are just like, I need to add a financing addendum, but I don't know which addendum I need, they listed all of the financing addenda for you so that you can now just check the box that you need. If there's a lease addenda that you need, they separated that for you. Additional tests and reports, statutory disclosures, and any other notices are here. Notice the one thing that's not listed here is, again, that mandatory membership addendum for HOAs. That is not here. We've discussed that in paragraph 2. Okay, paragraph 2, and again in paragraph 12, as far as who's paying for the resale certificate itself, we do not need to add an addendum that's going to redisclose the same information that we disclosed in the contract. Okay, these are the major reasons why the condominium document is different, because again, all this information is embedded in the contract versus actually adding an additional document. Now, the only other thing that will get added from here is the condominium resale certificate document itself. Once that resale certificate is ready to distribute, usually the title company sends that out, and everybody that needs to sign it signs it. It gets part of the contract, and everybody's on the same page. Okay. The condominium contract, also, I just want to throw this out here. This is for resale. Resale, resale, resale. If you have a condominium that is being built or that has been built and it's brand new construction, technically this document does not cover that because this is for resale. Texas Realtors has a document for the new, the residential condominium contract completed construction and incomplete construction that really mimics our promulgated new home completed and incomplete construction contracts mixed in with this condominium resale contract. So if you're looking for that, I do have a video in the playlist somewhere regarding those other two contracts, but this one specifically is for resale. Please remember that this is for resale. I really hope that all of this helps you as you navigate your real estate career. Thank you and see you soon.